thinking over 4 years of doing this and making well over 100 videos that we've ever done a countdown video on here. So this is going to be a little bit fun, but niche.com just redid their list of the best places to live in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and High Point, the entire Triad area. And we're going to count down the top 5 today. And I'll link below where you can go on Niche and you can see the entire list that goes through the top 25. We're going to do the top 5 today. And I will tell you Lewisville and Clemmons, the ones that kind of were always for the last few years in the number 1 or number 2 position, kind of going back and forth. Neither one of those are ranked number 1 this year. We're going to discuss that. But also the town that is ranked number 1 is one that I really thought that I would move to when I first was looking about moving to North Carolina. I ended up not. I would probably make that same decision today, but let me know what you think about it. So in the description, I'll link the full list, but also you're going to see a full suburbs playlist where you can just see much more detail on a lot of these towns. I've made some in-depth videos on almost all of them. And if you need help buying or selling real estate, my contact information is down there below. But I should also point out that Winston-Salem was ranked 8th on this list, Greensboro 9, and High Point itself were 13th. So the cities ranked a little bit further down than these top 5 suburbs. But the one that came in number 5 is Jamestown, North Carolina. And Jamestown is an absolute hidden gem to me in the Triad region. It's a suburb of kind of Greensboro, kind of High Point, but it is a great little small town. It's about 3,600 people there with high quality schools that are highly ranked and highly sought after. The town has some good restaurants, good shopping, good amenities, has some excellent parks there. I think if there's a knock on the town itself, is it is a little bit small, so there's not a ton of stuff to do right in town. You'll go to Greensboro or High Point for most of those things, which means probably going to go to Greensboro most often. Like if you're going to Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Costco, things like that, you'll head up to Greensboro. Downtown Winston-Salem is about 30 minutes from Jamestown as well. But overall, I think the town is just great. It's charming. Your money and housing can go a little bit further. There's a good variety of housing out there as well. So Jamestown coming in at number 5. Moving into number 4 is the town of Clemmons, North Carolina. This is one that I was always in the top 1 or 2 on these lists for a really long time, dropping down to number 4. And not to be too redundant on it, but Clemmons kind of reminds me of more just of a fully developed suburb, kind of where I moved from the suburbs of Chicago. Clemmons kind of reminds me of that. It has about 22,000 people, lots of shopping, lots of different things to do, but it's also really simple to get to Winston-Salem, just outside of Winston. It's easy to get to the highway for commuting if you want to get there. The schools tend to be highly desirable in Clemmons for the most part. And a really unique thing about Clemmons is it attracts both families really love Clemmons because of the schools and some of the amenities in the town itself, but also people that are retiring tend to look to Clemmons quite a bit, actually more than you would think of at first glance. But Clemmons has a lot of developments that are going in now that are aimed towards retired people, single family or cluster homes or patio homes and things like that that cater to a more 55 plus lifestyle. Clemmons has a lot of that, especially in the new construction area. So it kind of plays both ends of the spectrum. You know, there are large rental communities even in Clemmons, so it has just a little bit for everyone as far as housing. I think people lately have been saying Clemmons is getting a little bit crowded, and you know, there can be some spots if you're getting on 40 or 421 that can get some traffic in there. Maybe people don't like that as much. I'm not 100% certain why Clemmons dropped far on this list. You can read more on Niche's methodology, but Clemmons still remains a really, really popular suburb for people looking to move to the area. All right, number 3 is the town I live in, the town of Lewisville, North Carolina. This also dropped out of the top 1 and 2 from trading that back and forth with Clemmons. So we saw these towns take a decent drop in these rankings. Lewisville came in at number 3. Lewisville is good for people that want more of a kind of like a small town versus a traditional suburb feel. There's about 13,000 people in the town. There's not really an actual downtown Lewisville. There's like a little main strip that goes through town there that's quaint. It's got some shops, coffee shops, some antique shops and different things, and it's actually gotten quite a few businesses there over the last couple of years. It's starting to develop. It's still not going to be like a quaint little downtown. It is just basically one main road, but there is a really nice town square there, Shallowford Square, that they do amazing events and things like that for the entire community. And again, in the playlist below, we've got full town tours of Lewisville and Clemmons, so if you want more, check down there. So 2 and 1 were a surprise to me, but again, a little surprising, I guess, that the towns rank this high, especially when we talk about number 1. There are some things going on there that we'll talk about, but coming at number 2 was Stokesdale, North Carolina. And Stokesdale is going to be good if you want a little bit more for your money. Your money goes a little bit further out there than, you know, in some of the other suburbs that we just mentioned. But also if you like a little bit more of a rural feeling, if you want to just kind of be out and away from things a little bit more, where like, you know, Clemmons is a suburb right next to Winston-Salem. Well, Stokesdale is a suburb of Greensboro, but it's actually the furthest one north on this list. So it'll be, you know, if you're going to run to Costco in Greensboro, it's going to be a little bit of drive to get there from Stokesdale. Some people like that, some people don't, but just kind of know that. And that's when I've showed houses and I've helped people buy and sell houses from there, I helped someone sell a house in Stokesdale, and actually they moved to number 5 on the list, Jamestown. Their biggest thing was they just got so tired of the commute. They worked in Greensboro, and the commute from Stokesdale to Greensboro was just further than they wanted, about 35 minutes each day. So moving to Jamestown actually shortened that commute for them a lot, which was one of the reasons why they made that move. So it's just something to keep in mind if you're up in Stokesdale. A lot of things are going to be a commute for you. But, you know, family feel, if that's what you're looking for, is really prominent in Stokesdale. Schools are highly ranked and highly sought after as well. So there are pluses and minuses to all this. But another one, if you wanted a similar, I guess, feeling suburb, but wanted to be closer to town, maybe consider something like Advance on the Winston Salem side. It's kind of a similar feel to Stokesdale, where it's a little bit more out and a little bit more away. It does feel a little bit more rural. It's got highly ranked schools as well, but it's a little bit closer to Winston Salem. You know, being Winston Salem in 15 or 20 minutes versus, 35 or 40 if you're going to Greensboro from Stokesdale. So just something different to consider, but Stokesdale number 2. And the new number 1 place to live in the entire Winston-Salem, Greensboro, High Point area, according to niche.com this year, is Summerfield, North Carolina. And when I was thinking about moving here, I loved how Summerfield looked on paper. It has so many of the things that I was looking for, houses with larger lots, really highly ranked schools, a little bit of a small town suburban feel. With about 11,000 residents, it's not too big, it's not too small. It looks really good. One of the things that really just kind of eliminated it for me was just the stuff to do right in the town, and then its proximity to get to anything else. So, grocery stores, restaurants and stuff right in town, there's not a huge variety of it. I would have had to commute to Greensboro for a lot of that. And for me, that distance just kind of ended up being a little bit too much. And it kind of just felt like it was out on its own. Not a lot, but just a little bit too much for me to move there. I've since sold a lot of real estate there, and I actually love that town. Summerfield is fantastic. I've discovered it's got some great parks and greenways. Actually, the Atlantic and Yadkin or A&Y Greenway is really, really nice in Summerfield. So take a look at that if you're out there, but it does have a lot to offer. But there are some gorgeous houses out in Summerfield. I mean, some big regal houses on large lots. I mean, it's just beautiful out there. A couple things to know about Summerfield. Throughout the last, year plus, they've been going back and forth about this development that they want to do with Summerfield Farms. The developer has a plan to build about 3,000 or more houses over the next decade plus. It was going to be a slow plan. They did renderings and stuff. They look beautiful. It's going to preserve a lot of green space. It's going to have, retail, homes, shopping, and stuff like that. And as we say down here, it caused a fuss. I mean, people did not like the idea of this development going on in Clemmons. They went back and forth, for a long, long time of battling this development, Summerfield Farms there. And I'm usually pro housing and development to a point, as long as it makes sense. I mean, the area desperately needs inventory. So I thought it was a great idea, but the people in the town, they really put up a fight against this. This went back and forth for a really long time. Actually, earlier this summer, when the developer was planning now to de-annex the project from Summerfield itself, and that was going back and forth through the courts, in June, the entire town staff resigned in one day at one time, and it was just a lot of chaos going on over the summer. Well, since then, this went all the way up to the North Carolina State Legislature, where they granted the developer the ability to de-annex this from the actual town of Summerfield. So that's kind of where this development plan is going right now. It's not done, because there are still some other steps for that to have to happen. I mean, I would guess that it eventually will happen. It's just going to be, a little bit of a fight along the way. So keep in mind, if you're thinking about moving to Summerfield, that, that just does throw a little bit of chaos in the mix and things like that, and what otherwise is a really, really great town. I think it needs these houses. It looks like these are going to bring some nice amenities to the town as well. But just something for you to keep an eye on if you're thinking about moving there. And if you're thinking about buying real estate in any of these towns or anywhere in the Triad, I'd love to be a resource for you. You can reach out to me directly at jeff@govalentino.com. Thanks.